Questions for Beverly? Comments? Councilmember Hilton?
I'll start with a couple items, and then I'll pass it on to my colleagues. First of all, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you to VTA for doing everything you've done to increase ridership. And like you mentioned before, one of the agencies that does not need a state loan to, so this is stuff that goes into that future, future network. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you all also, being so close and working with our city staff and your development review team, providing those comment letters and stuff, and really shaping our corridor and making sure that transit has its name in there. And so I was at the VTA PAC meeting last week hearing you speak, and I gave you my feedback there too. And one of the things that I keep hearing from a lot that I really want to reemphasize for here is just getting back to the basics, right? It's all about ridership, increasing that ridership, making those investments, safe and clean buses, the bus stops. We talked a lot about the bus shelters, investing in those. And also, you guys own the transit center that's here in our downtown. And I know that it's on the TOD work plan, but it could really use just like a simple paint job right now. Little things like that, I think could go a long ways of those that intersect there, San Benito County Express and all the other Monterey Salinas, transit comes through there. I think it would just really encourage ridership and show a little activation in there. But the last thing I want to say just on activation, thank you guys for always showing up to our festivals and stuff and tabling. That's important for you all to do that. So you keep being visible and stuff like that. So I have a few more items that I'll add, but I'll let my colleagues go next.
So thank you for your presentation. And you mentioned that June 4th, they will be deciding exactly what will be
on the investment plan.
On the investment plan. And my colleague here had a couple of good suggestions. But can you tell me what is being proposed specific to Gilroy?
So it is an investment plan with general areas, the three areas that I talked about. It's not like a traditional expenditure plan where you have a list of particular projects. This is meant to be flexible. So one of the big things that we're going to be working on is the visionary network plan, which will increase service throughout the Santa Clara area, and that would increase service in this area, in the Gilroy area also.
So you can't give me any kind of specifics or anything like that in terms of what you're proposing or what is being discussed, or I mean, I understand Santa Clara County, but we're not, we're really at the very tip, the end of Santa Clara County, and so I'd like to know specifically what would benefit the residents of Gilroy in terms of the investments.
So again, I don't have an expenditure plan list, which is I think what we're usually used to, that says specifically this particular line.
Because it's just the 50 plus 1% rather than the 2/3, so you don't have to specify that.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. There's also there's a timing element. But I can tell you that there's been the visionary network plan that, and let me just, without going into a lot of history, about 20 years ago, VTA had to cut its service tremendously. Remember the Great Recession. And that was something that was just done. VTA did that in Santa Clara, and we never recovered that service. And so this is one of the plans that we've been looking at and tweaking, with the idea of, if we had the service, how could we improve it all across the county to provide the service that we should be able to provide to all of our communities. So I don't have a specific expenditure plan, but our planning people are working with your planning people of the city of Gilroy, and it will be a process where every biennial budget will look and we'll say, okay, let's see how we're doing, how we're doing with key performance indicators, how we're doing with the ridership in these particular areas. We know the places where they're the most ons and offs, to speak, the places that generate ridership, and we know the places We know the places that are thin in Gilroy. Those are some of the places that we'd like to increase. You're welcome.
Councilmember Klein?
Yeah, being a part of the mobility partnership, and that's the key word for that, with VTA, Caltrans, naturally San Benito County, Morgan Hill, and Gilroy, and working together. It's a great partnership, and I really appreciate that, and being a part of it for 3 years, and building the relationship with the guys of VTA. And you're talking about needs. We need that 40 to 45 million for the extension for Santa Teresa, and we're talking about that, seeing how that gets funded. So that's something we're working towards. We need it. So, but appreciate you coming tonight and sharing.
Thank you.
Back to Councilmember Hilton.
Thanks. So I'll share one of the tangible things that this can sort of like push us through. So right now, the Rapid 568, it only runs Monday through Friday, right? And it's every 30 minutes. It does not run on the weekends. So this would be one of those things where we could increase it on the weekends, right? So that would be a benefit, to members of Gilroy and San Jose, because that corridor 568 to be able to go on the weekends. Number two is that the frequent 68 runs every 15-minute headway along the Monterey corridor from here to Diridon, along with Beverly didn't mention it, but one of the other things that they're trying to do is transit signal priority. And one of the investments that you'll see in the future coming back here is that they're really trying to speed up transit along the Monterey corridor from Gilroy to San Jose. Transit signal priority is one of those things that's doing that. And one of the things, and we talked about this last week in the PAC, one of the benefits for that is sometimes it can go from 15-minute headways to all of a sudden it's down to like 14 and then 13 and then maybe even 12, right? So that gives more frequent service, rapid service, and planners love it, and those that use transit love it because it's really easy for us to tell somebody like, hey, get yourself to Monterey Road and find a bus stop, and a bus will be there every 15 minutes. And that's really what this board's trying to work on. That's what their staff's trying to work on is get to this point, and that's why it's nothing tangible. But they want to get to this point where you really don't have to think too much about it, whether it's an app you're using or whatever. You're literally just able to go down there and not have to worry if the bus is coming or not coming. It just comes every 10 to 15 minutes. But the other thing too is the investment in the bus shelters. And so some of the bus shelters down here on Monterey Road are really bad. And they're not inviting. And there's ways for us to turn those in. I turn those in. But if you look at some of the cities up north that have more frequent transit, just because they have more ridership, like Beverly said, they're able to tell like how many ons and offs they get at certain places, and that's where they really want to invest those really high-tech bus shelters. Some even the bus shelters, they know if people are riding their bikes and they want to leave their bikes, they'll put bike racks in there. So it's that futuristic type stuff, and I can promise you that as a member of the PAC and the mayor, the alternate on the board seat comes back to Gilroy next year. These are the kind of things that we want to hear from the community and from our fellow council members, and this is this kind of futuristic stuff that you can see me trying to push up there during the expenditure plan, and whatever they end up approving in June and beyond, myself and the mayor promise that we will bring all that back and give you actual tangible things that make it better if this passes in November, or even it gets on the ballot. We don't even know if it's on the ballot yet.
Thank you. Any last comments, Beverly?